Just as there are different ways to design a project, there are different ways to design an evaluation. Some urban innovative action projects use an approach based on a theory of change. A theory of change explains linkages between activities, their results, and intended impacts. It presents a path between what you are doing and what you are trying to achieve. Ideally, the theory of change guides the whole evaluation process. As we observed, there can be challenges, but also important opportunities.
We use the theory of change approach, and I think especially in this context, it was about getting everyone on the same page. So there were many partners working together in this project, and everyone was coming from their particular perspective. And the theory of change was really helpful in clarifying, working with individual partners in understanding how they see what this project was going to do, but also to try and define that collectively. And so, as I said, we worked together individually with partners, but also within a workshop to then work with the project, the material of the project proposal, to really try and construct a story of how this was going to work and clarify those objectives so that everyone was on board with what we were trying to achieve.
We use the theory-driven approach because it gives room to the voices of the participants. It's useful in a new innovative project that is quite complex and that is also in an implementation phase. And also because it's a small scale project, we couldn't use broad quantitative methods. But using the theory-driven evaluation also allows us to understand the mechanisms of the project, why it works, and what the different participants of the project bring into the project.
Another approach to evaluation is about determining what would have happened had the project never taken place, which is called the counterfactual approach. It provides greater certainty that the results occurred are because of your project. This approach was successfully implemented in Barcelona. However, we also observed that it was problematic for some projects, especially those working with vulnerable populations.
The project as a whole was designed as an experiment with a counterfactual evaluation in which eligible families were randomly assigned to those different income schemes. This design allowed us to infer the causal effects of the intervention on the different outcomes of interest.
In Bridge, it was the original design to have an experimental approach. That means that some schools would participate and other schools would not participate, and you would compare the results between the two. That has a problem because you deny the support to some students, and this turned out to be politically unacceptable. The alternative we have used was a non-experimental approach, and it had a number of elements. First, we used extensive use of administrative microdata, and what we did was, for example, to compare the trends for the south of Rotterdam with other regions in the Netherlands. And another important element of the study were surveys. We did surveys among students and among companies. And in these surveys, we both involved participants and non-participants of the interventions of Bridge. By these two elements, so the microdata and these surveys, the counterfactual element was not fully lost.
Some urban innovative action projects decided to use a more open evaluation approach based on an action research paradigm focused on participation.
In Calico, we choose to do participatory action research because it's not just as a researcher that you do research, you collect data, you present it and you leave it there, but action research actually really allows you to, as a researcher, also push for action.
So you can take all your knowledge from research, readings, previous experiences, and drive change. You constantly feed into the project, but it of course means that it is important who the action researcher is.
In Curing the Limbo, we chose the action research methodology, and this was our choice because we thought it would be more than the accumulation of knowledge that would be created by an outside expert or contractor. And this methodology is very dynamic, and it gives a lot of space for the participation of all the implementing partners. So on the one hand, we have the action which is taken to improve practice, and on the other hand, the research generates all the new knowledge that answers how and why the improvements come about.